Most law firms don't do performance reviews because they're difficult and they don't have a system to do them. In this video, I'm going to solve both of those problems for you. Hi, I'm Charlie Mann with Great Legal Marketing, and I know that performance reviews are probably one of those things you've thought about doing. Maybe you've even done them on kind of an intermittent basis. You know, every couple of years you sit down with employees and talk with them. Or maybe you even did it once per quarter over 3 quarters, but that was 5 years ago. The problem is most performance review systems are not well designed for small businesses. A lot of them rely on several layers of management, but you are much closer to your employees than the middle manager at IBM, Coca-Cola, or Apple. So how do you deal with equal parts managing the relationship with the employee while also getting excellent performance out of them? And the process is actually really simple. That's the good news. But it's only simple if you are willing to do the work. So the first thing I want to answer is, how frequently should you do performance reviews with your team? My recommendation is a minimum of twice per year. And even if you fall off track on doing the minimum, just remember you can always get back on track. You should never be embarrassed that you haven't done a performance review recently and allow that to be the holdup from doing them again. Instead, just get back on the horse and continue to keep rhythm as best as possible. Ideally, you would do them probably every quarter if you had a bigger practice. But in smaller practices, every 6 months is the perfect rhythm to hit regularly. And one of the reasons is, you don't want your performance reviews to just be salary negotiations, which is what tends to happen if you do them once per year rather than twice per year. So what should you actually do in the performance evaluation? Well, here's my number one tip to get more out of every evaluation that you do, and that is to make it both an evaluation from the manager and a self-evaluation. I know self-evaluations are not necessarily revelatory, but have you actually considered doing a self-evaluation? Now, to make a self-evaluation work, there's a critical component you have to consider, and that is making sure that the manager and the employee are both measuring the employee from the same criteria. Both people should get the exact same form. And the reason is, when you go into a performance evaluation conversation, the whole idea of it is you should be identifying discrepancies in the evaluation. What do I mean by that? Let's say one of the categories on your evaluation is work quality. You rank the employee on a scale of 1 to 5, a 3. The employee ranks him or herself as a 5. Now, this could be an uncomfortable conversation if you were to go into the meeting and give someone a 3 and they just immediately say, well, I feel like it's a 5. Instead, they've put their number down as a 5. And your job at that moment as the manager is to say, that's interesting. Why did you rank yourself a 5? And what you may find is they honestly perceive themselves as doing a level 5 output for you, while you ranked them at a level 3. And the only thing we need to solve for here is the communication discrepancy. So you may tell them, well, I guess I didn't do a good enough job of communicating my expectations to you because it sounds like you earnestly felt that you were hitting my expectations. On the flip side, we should make room for the fact that some employees will over-evaluate themselves, be slightly too confident, and this allows you to say, well, it seems that you may have overreached. Do you think in this conversation you would at least consider yourself maybe closer to a 4, and we can figure out what a 4 really means between the two of us? Obviously, this makes the conversation significantly easier and less uncomfortable, because the conversation is not about you've done bad, it's about let's figure out what good really looks like. Let's agree on the outcome we are trying to achieve here. So on the actual card itself, I recommend that you have 5, at minimum 5 and up to 7 sort of work quality categories. General work quality, team communication, getting things done on time. You need to figure out the 5 to 7 categories that are most valuable to you and use those and score them on a scale of 1 to 5. That way you are using the exact same scale for yourself that the employee is using, and again, we're just looking for those differences in the scores overall. You'll find out if you've done a good enough job as a leader and manager, quite frankly, if your employees can score them honestly compared to what you are scoring them as. Then we want to grade them against our core values. Again, I like using a scale of 1 to 5 here. So that way we can tell how well is the employee living up to our core values. Now, if you're not using core values, that's something we regularly coach in our Hero and Icon programs. And you can take a look at the links in the description to get more information about those. But the idea is simply you want to make sure that your people are not just aligned in work quality, but attitudinally with how the practice likes to function. You want to make sure that everyone is living up to the same internal standards as they are living up to with their external productivity. This really helps make sure that everyone is on the same page with how we operate as a team and decisions we make on behalf of our clients. And again, you're just looking at why did you score yourself lower than me, perhaps, than I scored you. This happens more frequently than you might imagine. An employee grades him or herself much lower than you gave them as a grade, and so you get an opportunity to essentially give them a pep talk. But you may also find that that team member has a problem with being really hard on themselves that is causing them to be lower in your core values overall. There are a lot of weird interactions that happen when we use this system, but the whole idea here is keeping on rhythm and using a grading system that is very easy to understand, enables better conversations, and ultimately allows the employee to evaluate themselves in the exact same way that you are evaluating them. Because when we both are using the exact same criteria, it just means we're going to have a much better outcome holistically as a team. You will see increased productivity and better performance from every single team member. So if this kind of stuff really excites you, like I said, you should take a look at the Hero and Icon programs, which are the perfect fit for both 6- and 7-figure law firm owners who are trying to grow not just the firm overall, but have amazing teams running the firm to get what we call a high profit, low maintenance practice. So if that excites you, take a look in the description below. Otherwise, take a look at the next video that you see on this page and go ahead and subscribe to the channel as well for more information just like this coming out every week for you.